America. Ba, 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 ba. Land of the free.
America was built on people coming over to America searching for religious freedom.
Freedom fries.
Freedom to act.
Freedom choice.
To carry guns.
Freedom of speech.
We got conventions on freedom. We got bumper stickers that talk about freedom.
Freedom to choose.
We got people that like their whole life is just freedom, freedom, freedom.
Everybody wants freedom.
We've even got Lady Liberty.
Statue of Liberty. On there, the inscription says,
"Give me your poor, your tired, your huddled masses, yearning to be free."
But what is freedom?
If you look up on Google, freedom is to think, to act, or to speak
however you want without restraint.
According to Google, if you want to be free, do whatever you want, and that, my friends, is true freedom.
But is that truly freedom?
My question to you, is freedom really what you want? Or do you want happiness?
Romans 6 helps us to understand what freedom is. It gives us two pictures of slavery.
And everybody will admit that slavery is a bad thing.
I know, slavery, it's an ugly word.
But Paul basically says, you're going to be a slave to something, and you only have two options.
It's either you're a slave to sin, or you're a slave to God.
Anyone who chooses to be a slave to sin is completely and totally free from doing what's right. You don't have to keep anybody's rules, anybody's regulations. In fact, the Church of Satan offers what many would call true freedom. Do what you want shall be the whole of the law.
To be a slave to sin means I can do whatever I want when I want it.
So you got this God on the one hand that offers laws and laws and laws and laws, and then you've got this other guy that pretty much has one law, and it's do whatever you want. It's almost like, wow, I would most definitely rather choose to go with that guy.
You find yourself pursuing things that you think will make you happy
rather than go with God, because God has a lot of laws, and that's not freedom. Think about what this idea of freedom really means.
The longer you find yourself pursuing those things, you find that you begin to be trapped and confined by these things.
Suppose that you wanted to be sexually free, meaning without hindrance or restraint, the right to do, act, or think however you want.
I can have as many partners as I want. I can sleep with whoever I want to.
What are the real consequences of that freedom?
Unwanted pregnancy, unwanted diseases,
and eventually that leads to
an early death.
And is that what you really want? And is that really freedom? Or how about substance abuse? If you really follow substance abuse, the addictions take away your freedoms. And those addictions lead to
an early death.
But what about even something as simple as like eating without restraint, taking no care or thought for what you're going to eat? Well, what does that lead to? High blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, and those lead to
an early death.
So really, this freedom leads to
an early death.
But what about rape? If one person's free to rape somebody because that's what they want to do, does that really leave the other person who's getting raped free?
All of these things put an early end to your life.
So really, complete freedom leads to early death.
Freedom from God equals death.
Now the flip side of that is, suppose that you choose to become enslaved to God's rules.
What happens when we become slave to God?
God says thou shalt not commit adultery. He's pretty serious about that, right? So he says get married
with not many people, but with one person.
Your whole life without becoming sexually free at all.
You find yourself intimate with that one person.
There's no fear of STDs because you both have one partner.
Praising God for the life that He's blessed your family with.
And pregnancy, instead of unwanted, becomes the joy and the hope of this beautiful little child in your arms. But what about saying, I'm actually going to be careful about what I eat because God says, hey, there's certain things that you should and should not eat in the Bible.
But now, having been freed from sin,
by choosing to restrain your eating and enslaving yourself to God's rules, you actually end up living longer. They say that people that eat healthy are happier, and you're capable of doing so many more activities.
And enslaved to God,
What if you say, I'm going to become enslaved to God's rules about staying healthy and staying away from addictions? Instead of being addicted to substances,
you derive your benefit.
Being limited by where you go and how you spend your money and what actually drags you down, you all of a sudden become more free than you were before,
resulting in sanctification.
There's no early death in any of this slavery to God.
And the outcome is eternal life.
In fact, I'm going to say it to you like this. Freedom from God leads to an early death every time.
This isn't some theological idea. It literally equals death.
But as we choose to become enslaved to God, we end up becoming more and more happy. And that, my friends, is true freedom. So my question to you is, do you want to be free or do you want to be happy by becoming enslaved to God?
As we choose to become enslaved by God, we truly become more free.
Because that's where you can experience true freedom.
Come when you are able to haystack out my table.